So good day, friends, and how are you doing? I hope you've had a nice day so far. So this morning in Nigeria, we were confronted with the news of Ali Bongo of Gabon on Libreville, who has been ousted by the military. And a lot of people have a lot of thoughts. A lot of people are saying a lot of things about how coup in Africa is going backwards and the rest of them. Yes, in a sense, I share in those thoughts. I share in the grief of my fellow Africans who are really traumatized by these coups. Yeah, but then I would want us to have this conversation in the perspective it should be. This man we're talking about here is a lawyer. He's been rumored to be the adopted son of the late father who was the president, because to a large extent his mother was said to have given back to him at 18 years, and very early on in the marriage. Yeah. But that has nothing to do with leadership. That has nothing to do with the presidency of the great city of Gabon, which is unfortunately a colony of the French nation. Now, Ali Bongo has been in power since 2009. And I would want you to know that his father held on to power from 1967 to 2009. And while his father held sway, it would interest you to know that he was Minister of Foreign Affairs from 1989 to 1991. After he finished there, he went to the House, what we call our House of Senate or House of Representatives, and represented his people from 1991 to 2009. No, 1991, yeah, to 1999. I hope you are getting this story. Then, from 1999 to 2009, the lawyer was the Minister of Defense in Gabon. When he finished that, his dad died in 2009. In 2009, this same man contested an election and won. Since 2009 till date, this man in question has been in power. He has gone for his first term, he has gone for his second term, and the election that made him the president for the second term was an election that was marred with extreme irregularities, extreme frustration of those in opposition. He used power to crush every one of them to make sure he had his way. Now, post his stroke era, because he is a man who has stroke at the moment. He's recovering, glory be to God and the rest of them. But then, in that his very frail health, this man in question has just been declared the president of the same Gabon for a third term. You know, there's something about us in Africa. There's something about the type of leadership we hold here in Africa. We have a sense in which we have no regard for the masses, the people who are supposed to be the ones, to decide who leads them. There is a sense in which we don't really have any form of regard for them. We believe that once we're able to capture the institutions, then the masses can go to hell and burn to ashes and nothing will happen. You make use of the military, you make use of the various paramilitary agencies and the armed forces to crush every dissenting voice. But I think it's time for our political leaders to understand that the dynamics are changing. So going back to the argument whether a coup is what we're supposed to do in Africa or not, I would want to tell a whole lot of us that in Africa, we need something very, very drastic, something very, very unique that will address our many, many issues. Doesn't it worry you that despite all that we have in Africa, we are still very, very hungry and poor? Our people are poor, or don't you know about that? Our nations are very, very poor and badly run. Africa may arguably have one of the most of resources in the world, but then in Africa you have words like underdeveloping nation, this one, that one, this one, that. It's in Africa that you see a man who is shaking like this, being pushed into office by the men who are using him to get whatever they want to do. On what basis should Ali Bongo be wanting to go back to be a president? Let's just have this conversation. But these men who are using him as a front don't really care if the whole Gabon bombs. What that matters to them is that they are in power and they continue to exploit the nation terribly. While I may not be a proponent of military coups, because also these guys also have their own agenda and their mode of leadership is not the very best, I can say that very boldly. But I think that as long as the West, the conceptual West, keep giving us the type of attitude they give to us as non-equals, these are guys who are always very, very happy when they see very sick people in charge of African nations. They don't like Paul Kagame of Rwanda. Of course, it's obvious. They don't like his guts. They don't like the other guy from Kenya, irrespective of the challenges he's facing, with respect to the legitimacy of his government. They don't like them. In as much as Hakainde Hichilema is trying to be diplomatic and the rest of them, but I think they don't like to see Africa being led by men who are strong on ideologies and who are bold to tell them that you can't continue to exploit us. That is why Ali Bongo will go to France and Macron will come and, be all nice and the rest of them. Because the business partner is around at the risk of the whole continent. We need to sit down as a continent and tell ourselves, this is what we want. This is how we want to run our continent. And this is how best to use our resources in the interest of every African alive. Enough of this whole nonsense. We have so much resources, yet we are languishing in poverty and hunger. So what is wrong? It all boils down to leadership. We don't have leaders who are sound enough to articulate policies and do things in the interest of the masses. Ali Bongo is gone. And he has to go. It doesn't matter how you feel about it, that man has to go. The masses have been overwhelmed. That's another truth. So what happens is this. Let me give you this analogy. You have this big broad who beats you up, bullies you and the rest of them. And you're doing everything you can to take a pound of flesh, yet you can't because of his strength and all that. And someday, you see somebody who is able to match his power, dealing with him. For crying out loud, you'll be so happy. We need to let these politicians know that they are answerable to the masses. Let them know this for once. Let them stop acting as if they are gods. One is happening in Southeast at the moment. They were gearing up for an election in a matter of months to come. Go and see what the man is doing there. Even when it is obvious that because of how he came, to a large extent, people are not disposed to him. Irrespective of the fact that I've heard that he has done quite a lot for the people of the state. But then, they're not disposed to him. Guess what he's doing? This is in force. He's bulldozing as much from what we are hearing. Who does that? If we are ready for democracy, let's practice democracy. If we are not ready for democracy, let us define and describe what will work for us and stick to it. A whole lot of these deceptions are all, we are sick and tired of them. Nigeria up till now cannot take its rightful place in the Committee of Nations, and you tell him that everything is okay. No, everything is not okay. Our institutions must work. Let these guys in the political space know that they don't have an absolute power. Somebody hand will touch you one day. It's unfortunate, but then where else do we run to?